Good afternoon. It's been 3 weeks since Israel launched a ground invasion in southern Lebanon, leading to a severe humanitarian crisis and the displacement of nearly 1 million Lebanese people. France is holding a conference to address the situation, aiming to relieve the Lebanese humanitarian catastrophe by raising over $400 million in aid for the country. Although key players like Israel are absent, the conference hosts representatives from over 70 countries and international organizations, including the European Union. In addition to humanitarian aid, French President Emmanuel Macron aims to contribute to equipping the Lebanese army and pushing for a ceasefire. Can France and other international actors solve the Lebanese crisis? Is aid enough, or do they need to put pressure on Israel to back down? And how long will the Lebanese people continue to suffer? Welcome to In Depth.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بيخوف.
Le Monde newspaper highlighted France's pledge to provide a €100 million package to support Lebanon at today's conference held in Paris. According to the newspaper, Italy recently announced new aid worth €10 million, while Germany pledged an additional €60 million for people in Lebanon. Additionally, Macron has repeatedly called for a ceasefire in both Lebanon and Gaza, and he reiterated his position in a phone call with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Le Monde also highlighted recent tensions between the French and Israeli leaders, especially after Macron called for a halt to arms exports for use in Gaza.
In response to Lebanon's escalating humanitarian crisis, French President Emmanuel Macron is set to convene an international conference held in Paris aiming at addressing the ongoing war in Lebanon. France, a longtime ally of Lebanon, has joined forces with the United States to advocate for a ceasefire. However, Israel's escalating military operations in Lebanon have hindered France's ability to exert significant influence. The Paris conference represents France's latest attempt to shape Lebanon's future amidst the raging war on Lebanon, though its effectiveness is uncertain, especially with notable absence expected from key players like Israel, Iran, and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Despite the bleak outlook for peace negotiations, there may be opportunities to enhance humanitarian assistance to the Lebanese people. This initiative follows a failed ceasefire proposal made by France and the US in September. France is advocating for a resolution in line with UN Secretary Council Resolution 1701, which emphasizes the need for peacekeepers and Lebanese army to secure southern Lebanon near the Israeli border. Strengthening the Lebanese armed forces is anticipated to be a focal point of the discussions. Additionally, France is urging Lebanese leaders to elect a president who resolve the two-year political vacuum, which is seen as a critical step before any potential ceasefire.
Now, to discuss this more, we are joined by John Fagali, an international relations expert from Beirut, and Majid Bowden, a professor of international law who's joining us from Paris. Welcome, both of you, to the program. We'll start with you, Mr. Fagali. How does this Paris conference compare to other recent efforts to sort out the situation in Lebanon?
Good day, first of all. I think the talk now is obvious that we have to implement the United Nations Security Council resolutions, 1701 in particular. Any talk that has happened or will happen in the future will have to focus on that. Lebanese people are making it clear. Lebanese politicians from all different sects and different parties are making it clear. We have reached the point that we don't have any other solution but to implement the United Nations Special Council resolution under Chapter 7.
And coming to you, Mr. Bowden, in Paris, the EU Foreign Affairs chief, Joseph Borrell, has made a statement saying that the conference is an important occasion for mobilizing urgent political and economic support. Can you see any of that being achieved here at this conference?
We must make these achievements in a very materialized way, because we have to see from where we are starting. Now, after this invasion and during this invasion, Lebanon has lost nearly 10% of its national product. So we have half of the businesses and companies which are completely out of service. We have the agriculture abandoned by more than 50%. The south is completely not functioning. The feeding of the people is paralyzed. It means that we have more than 1 million which are displaced and forced to move, and they're not sheltered. So all this means that inflation is going up. Food is not available as before, even that before the food was in a very poor quantities. And so we have this dramatic situation that we have to tackle now. And this is a responsibility of the international community. The aggression is very clear, and the responsibility of Israel, and they must think about the consequences of their aggression against civilians. And so now the international community is gathered in Paris at the initiative of France to, first of all, resolve this humanitarian issue. And we have the possibilities. It's now a matter of $400 million, or it can go up to $500 million. Now this money is nearly gathered, and so it will be supplied to Lebanon to secure the food and the sheltering of the people. So this is the urgent matter. The second matter is to resolve, to put back the Lebanese state into in shape. It means that we have to have the army to stand up and to play its role in strengthening the state and to defend the sovereignty of Lebanon. And third, we have this political matter which is completely blocked, which is to have the institution to come back to work in a normal position, a normal situation, so they could resolve the political issues of the country, and to have Lebanon stand in the international arena as an independent sovereign state.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowden. And Mr. Faghari, coming back to you, we have this quote from the French Foreign Minister, Jean-Noël Barrot, who says, "The objective is first of all to restate the need for a ceasefire and a diplomatic resolution." So how significant is it that Israel is not present at the conference?
It's significant. It signifies that Israel is playing by its own rules, and Israel has set its agenda and it plans on completing and finishing all of its set out tasks or plan, which in Lebanon are to eradicate Hezbollah completely. I don't think Israel, especially now since the rules of the engagement have been long gone, and I've said that before, I think Israel will not will not, let's say, answer to anyone, and they haven't even done so ever since October 7th. So I'm not really, personally, I'm not surprised by that. I think that they will do what they set out to do, regardless of many initiatives, many voices, many concerns that are raised. I think it's far too late. The damage to the civilians, most importantly, has been far more extreme, and we have reached a far dire and hostile situation. Israel finds itself maybe unable to go back for now, but hopefully, we hope that they do. But this absence signifies that any plans or any talks that don't include the disarmament of Hezbollah and the securing of the northern borders of Israel are out of the question for them.
Okay. So Israel playing by their own rules, says Mr. Faghali. Do you agree with that, Mr. Bowden? And also, what can these 70 countries who are gathering at this conference do? And how do they use this diplomatic leverage to get Israel to agree to a ceasefire? Can it be done?
We hope, and this is an attempt, anyhow. Without an attempt, we cannot hope anything to happen positively. But I think the government of Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to take the occasion of the American elections, and where there is a vacuum in decision making, at least to leave the situation as it is, because nobody wants to take a risk from an election point of view. So Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, they know this very well, and so they are trying to use it as a leverage to continue their war, knowing that now there is a consensus around the world that the war in the Middle East will not bring a solution. It can bring some victories on the battleground, but it will not lead to a serious and comprehensive and a long-term solution. So this is just an adventure. But this adventure, while it could have realized some objectives or some targets, this is it. But in few weeks now, after the elections, the U.S. elections, after this date, then we will have a new administration or whatever. It will be a new president in the U.S., and they have to tackle the problem, and they have to see the huge damages caused in this war, both in Gaza and in South Lebanon. And we never know what can happen in the next few days if it will not spread out for other areas. So, but for the time being, we have 3 weeks where lives cannot be left like that, and we cannot continue these casualties. And any more casualties is more suffering and more damages. So what France is doing, and with 70 countries, which is a huge number, means that they don't accept what Israel is doing. And there is a gap now between the Israeli government and the public opinion, and also with a lot of states around the world. So this is the situation. We try to solve it with Israel or without Israel. Israel was convened, was invited to participate. Netanyahu did not want to participate for these 2 reasons. First of all, he has no answer to give. And whatever the answer he will give, nobody will accept it. So he preferred to not face the problem and to continue what he's doing, But in the end of the day, we have to put on the table the responsibilities. He's liable for these casualties. He's liable for the civilians. He's liable for the economic disaster in Gaza and in Lebanon. So this will be in one of the next conferences, which will be coming, I think, soon. This is the disaster, but we have to go in the urgent matter and how to circumvent this disaster and to push to a ceasefire. I believe that this ceasefire will not come in the next few days, but we have to start from now. Maybe we'll have it in the next few weeks.
Okay, and Mr. Faghari, would you like to comment on that as well? What do you think the significance of the US elections might be on the situation in Lebanon? And also, is $400 or $500 million, as Mr. Bowden said, is it going to be enough to relieve the crisis in Lebanon?
First of all, the U.S. elections, of course, is significant. Like for now, Israel is taking advantage of that leverage it has, that the U.S. is preoccupied with their internal elections. I think post-elections, with the new administration coming into place, things could reach a solution. And I personally believe that we can't technically speak of a solution for the region unless after the U.S. elections. That's what most public opinion, even Lebanon, is betting on, the post-election era. And concerning the 500 million or so donation for the Lebanese people, which are truly appreciated, I think it's all about the management of such an amount more than its actual value, if you will. I think it depends on who they're given to and how they're managed, how they're divided for the refugees, for the internally displaced people. I think the management on the ground needs to be efficient, needs to be not corrupted, and yes, we'll be able to at least pass through these hard times, especially now since winter is coming and most displaced people would have to need heat and have to need food and all that. So
yes, it's a very desperate situation that you're describing, Mr. Faghari. And Mr. Bowden, how critical do you think, it's been mentioned once already today, how critical is the reapplication of UN Security Council Resolution 1701 in ensuring Lebanon's sovereignty and ending the war? Do you think this is like a main objective of the conference?
Yes. First of all, we have to recall that this resolution 1701 was passed on 2006. Now we are 18 years after that, and we can measure what non-application of resolutions or of decisions of the International Court of Justice or resolution of the Security Council mean, and what are the consequences. The consequences of not making application of these decisions are what we are living today. It means disaster, catastrophes, killings, civilians completely devastated, infrastructure completely blown up. So this, we have to draw the conclusion that when there is a resolution, we have to make application of this resolution. We have to apply it immediately without delay. Every day of delay, it means more catastrophes. So this is a lesson that we have to take into consideration, and we have to implement the resolutions immediately. Now, what does it mean implementing the resolution now after 18 years? It means that the Lebanese army should be re-equipped, should be put in a position to go and control the borders and to control the country from a security sovereignty point of view. From there, Lebanon will recover its part of its sovereignty. We have to tackle also the economic sovereignty, where the economic situation is destroyed by corruption. People, they did not get hold of their own money, of their economies, of their savings, and which is a disaster. And prices are climbing because the people don't have access to their own money, which is a state robbery of the wealth of the Lebanese people, whether they are rich or whether they are poor or middle class. The people, they have lost their money. So now we have to rebuild the country, to have rebuilt trust in the country, trust in the economy of the country, and from there we can tackle the other problems, and to have institutions that they are functioning without corruption. And this is a major task, and the international community are now obliged to help to get Lebanon out, because they have a share of responsibility and liability in this terrible situation.
And given, Mr. Faghari, coming to you, given what Mr. Bowden was just saying there about corruption, with more than 2,300 lives lost and 1 million people displaced, how can the international community ensure that the aid reaches those most affected?
I think there's well, yes, the mistrust in the public sector or in the government has been far renowned in Lebanon, from the Lebanese people, from the public opinion, even from foreign countries. I think that private sector, the NGOs, non-governmental organizations, some of which are actually international and foreign, and originate or based in countries such as France and other countries that were in the conference, are able to manage such donations. I think religious organizations are able to manage such donations, such as the Kirke, the patriarchy and all that. So it's a matter of where you put your money, and who do you give it to, and who is it that you trust. And it's evident that the trust is not so much, given the experience in the state and in the government, unfortunately. We were hoping that the state would be helping the people. I mean, it's their responsibility after all, but because structurally we have in Lebanon such a weak state, we have to go to other means, such as the private sector and religious organizations.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Bowden. You've mentioned about the Lebanese army quite a few times already, and during the conference, Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati actually said that his government has decided to recruit more troops and could deploy 8,000 soldiers as part of the plan to implement a ceasefire and the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. So how do you think, how could the international community support Lebanon in this? Do you think it's likely that they could do this? And what's kind of timeline to be able to recruit new soldiers and strengthen the Lebanese military?
Yes, first of all, the resolution 1701 should be made applicable immediately, and we don't have to go into new discussions to see how to amend it again and to give more power to Israel or legitimacy to go into Lebanese territory, or to go on the north with the borders with Syria. So this is should be not a serious matter to go into. It's not a serious path. But it's only to now reinforce or make more operational the Lebanese army. What is the situation? The situation is that there is a lot of, now we can see that an officer in the Lebanese army is having a salary of something like $80, which is not sufficient to cover the daily costs. So a soldier is getting $20, so which is not sufficient.
Okay,
So
all right.
a lot of
Well,
people are
unfortunately, we're just about out of time, but we got your answer. And by the way, both of you gentlemen, it's been a very, very interesting discussion. Thank you for joining me. John Fagali in Beirut, and also Majid Bowden joining us from Paris. Thank you both very much for being on the program. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of In Depth. Stay tuned for more exclusive stories right here on Q News. Thanks for watching.